Hey guys, my name is Katie. Today I'm going to be taking you through a tutorial of how to do a charcoal effect drawing. So I'm just going to flash a couple of my drawings on screen now. So when I'm working in digital, I really like to do these charcoal effect drawings. I find them really satisfying and a really good way to unplug. So I thought I'd just spend some time taking you through the process of how I create those drawings. I do have a few videos on YouTube already. Some of those are credit quality, some of those are just screen recordings, so I thought I would just capture a good one if I can, so that you guys can see my process that I go through in real time. So this is a guy called Zane. He's an actor. This is a picture from his Instagram. I have a whole Pinterest board full of pictures like this that I find in various different places. The brush set that I'm going to be using today is by Lane Draws. It's his charcoal master pack. It is a little bit tricky to get used to as a newbie, but if you have quite a lot of control over your pencil, if you are a traditional artist or you just spend a long time drawing in digital, then give it a try. You might get on well with it. It does cost around $20 from memory, so it's not super cheap. There are some alternative brushes that come with Procreate default, so some native brushes, so you absolutely don't require this brush to get started, but nonetheless this is the brush I use. In terms of the background, I really like a paper texture. There is a few paper textures that comes with the Lane Draws pack, but I also like creating my own brushes for kind of various textures. Again, I do actually have a video on that in a separate video that I'll link below, but you can just create your own texture brushes, and these are just really super quick, so I recommend taking a look at that if you're interested. So I'm going to make the background, I think, fairly dark. I picked more of a canvasy texture. I'm just feeling that at the moment. In terms of the pencil itself, I'm going to be using a kind of a grey charcoaly colour, and I'm going to switch over to the General's pencil brush. I use this for kind of 90% of my drawing. The smudge brush, there's a few options. So the Lane Draws pack, if you've got that, does come with a few options. I quite like the edge softener and the gentle soften. I quite like the Jing sketch brushes. He's got one called Painting Wisp, which is quite nice. I don't really use the smudge brush very often, so honestly it's not even required really. And then finally the eraser, the perfect eraser to go with the General's pencil brush is the one that comes in the pack. It is the kneaded eraser. So to start off with, I do like to start quite small, so I'm just going to slide this over and line up the canvases. I think I will actually crop this picture, just make it a bit easier. So I'll probably go quite in close to the face. Okay. So I like to start off with just kind of blocking in the rough shape of the head. Make sure you do it on a different layer. I do this all the time. It does make it a lot easier if you've got your drawing on a separate layer. I do usually work in only 2 layers when I'm doing these drawings. 1 layer for the background and 1 layer for the face. I find just working all in 1 layer just gives it a more naturalistic look. So really I'm trying to look at the very outline of his face and create like the envelope shape on the page. This is really good to make sure that the drawing doesn't grow as you draw. Now I do maybe make this look easy, but it's taken me a bit of practice to get this far. And as I'm sure will happen, I will still make mistakes. So the rough shape of his face. These pencil marks are unlikely to stay, so don't feel shy about getting it wrong. I like to kind of map in roughly where the end of the nose is. Really try and look at the shape of the shadow and the position on the face. And then the eye sockets, maybe here. Not too sure, doesn't really matter. With the eye sockets, don't worry about everything that's going on there, the eyeballs. I really leave those to the end. What I do is I almost, the socket itself, so just under the bottom lid here of his eyelid, I almost just kind of draw around that whole shape and then colour it in. Eyes are something that really need to be in the right place to look right, and it's a lot easier to put them in the right place when everything around them is drawn, I find personally. So it does look a little bit odd at the moment. It kind of looks like a weird Halloween mask, maybe one of those beauty masks. I'm really trying to like posterize the picture. I'm squinting with my eyes on the left hand side there, and I'm looking, if I squint, especially with these high definition photographs, I find it makes it a lot easier. If I squint, then it really helps me see what the shapes are. Now this is the way I get started. There's no right or wrong way. You can get started with, you know, if you find this brush a little bit tricky to work with, you can get started with one of the native pencil brushes and use those to get you going. You can do Loomis method, you know, whatever works. I think the only thing I would say is try not to trace the drawing, at least when you get started. We will be doing a check-in in a bit to just make sure that all the features are in the right place, but in order to get better, I strongly recommend actually having a go at putting everything in the right place first before doing any kind of tracing or overlaying. So I'm really trying hard not to get tempted to like start bringing in the middle tones, just to really work on that kind of black and white posterization of the drawing. Moustaches are tricky. I love good facial hair, but it does make it a little bit difficult to figure out what you're looking at. I think if you're seeing like little areas that are white, it might be just tempted to just blend those all into one. Those often look better if you come in afterwards with a razor to pick them out versus drawing all the way around them. Under his chin, I'm not even sure if it's really that dark, but so if you just see me drawing right now, I'm kind of sitting fairly far back. I have the canvas very small. I am drawing far back because I've got a camera sitting right next to me, so that kind of limits how much I can crouch over my work, but I do try and keep a distance, especially in these early stages. And this is one of the beauties of digital. So Sargent was, you know, artists like Sargent, who's one of my favourite artists, when they draw, they're constantly walking away from their canvas, stepping back so they can have a look and see the overall effect. We don't need to do that when we're digital. All we need to do is go like this. Another option as well is to have a canvas, reference canvas, and just leave that as the picture that you're drawing and just have it really small, because then that's like another little check that you can look at if you want to see how things look, especially when you're drawing kind of very close details. I think that's quite helpful. I said don't add the midtones, but I'm going to add some midtones in the bottom half of his face. So one of the reasons we do this posterization is it really helps our brains to look at what we've drawn and figure out if anything doesn't look quite right. And the more you draw, the more you realise what isn't quite right, and quickly you learn yourself, you learn what you always get wrong. For me it's ears, I always put them in the wrong place. And you just get a better eye after a while. There is a way around it if you don't have a good eye yet, and I'll talk about that in a minute, as I say. So I would say it does get a lot easier with practice. And sometimes it's tempting to like want to have a shortcut. It's like find, you know, how to get your style in 20 minutes before you even know how to draw properly, or how to like cut years of practice out. But I think there isn't really a substitute for practice. I think there's a way to optimize the practice you do, like things that you can do to kind of make sure that the time you do spend practicing, if you have limited time, is like the best use of your time possible. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's a lot you can do to shortcut things. But it's like anything in life. I mean, like if you're an athlete, or you know, you're good at cooking or whatever it is you like to do and you're good at, there's no magic shortcuts. I mean, there's some people that are very good at things quickly and they pick things up quickly, but most people that are very good at drawing have spent a lot of time doing it. It does help when you do things that you like though. And if you feel like you're good at something, you're more motivated to do it. Right, so this is my generic attempt at a face. The things to check in on. So glabella, which is this area between the eyes, it's quite important. We need to make sure that's the right shape. Is it in the center line of his face? So like he's got a bit of a tilt to his head. I probably straightened him up a little bit, but that's fine. I always do that. Is the hair the right shape? I'm not drawing individual hairs yet. I want to get like the mass of the hair right. Is the width of his face right? I think maybe his face is a little wide. Let's just pinch it in a bit. Do you think his tilt's a little wrong? Yeah. I do quite like the tilt of his head, so I'm going to fix that now before I go further. And his t-shirt, I think it's quite cool. It's great, more that contrast. I'll roughly colour that in. Just wrapping around. I think that's maybe right. I'm not too sure. It's kind of hard to tell. Maybe his head there is a little bit. Sometimes I think I've got it right and then I check in on where everything is and everything is completely wrong. Sometimes I think I've got it wrong and I check in and everything's actually in the right place. So it's an adventure. I'm constantly flicking my eyes from left to right to see what I'm looking at. The distance is okay, so I might actually come in and pin down the bottom of his nose, because then I can measure some things off of that. There's a few ways to measure things. I think after a while you just develop the eye where you don't have to measure things, you just visually compare stuff against each other and that's your way of measuring. But I think when you're first starting out, don't be embarrassed about, you know, getting it really big and maybe putting them next to each other and just kind of moving across to check positioning, or using your pencil or a ruler to measure stuff. I think all of that is good and all of that is better than what I'm about to show you a bit later on, which is the overlaying. So the question is, have I got the distances correct? You know what, I don't even know. Don't start drawing things like nostrils and eyeballs in yet, you really don't. It's important to get the centre of the mouth correct, because otherwise it does look weird. No, I think that's mostly right. I really don't know. Had a long day. So yeah, I don't know if it's time for me to get a new pencil tip, but sometimes it just stops working the way it should. And I'm pretty sure it's not the pencil, the brush pack. I'm pretty sure it's my cruddy pen or my cruddy screen protector. So in terms of the equipment, this is an iPad Pro. You don't really think you need an iPad Pro. Like, as you can see, most of my drawing I do in like a tiny part of the screen, so I think it's absolutely fine to do a normal iPad. The Apple Pencil is really required if you're doing this kind of drawing, because the sensitivity is so important. So definitely recommend getting one of those if you're serious about, you know, getting into Procreate. I've got a matte screen protector. It just stops the pen from sliding around, gives you a bit of control and feels a bit more like drawing in pencil. So on real paper, so it's just a bit more satisfying. Yeah. Other than that, you don't need fancy brush packs. I've got the Lane Draws one. It is great, but you absolutely don't need it. I do have a stand. I can't remember what this one's called. I will share a link. It's pretty fab. It's strong and hardcore. It wasn't super cheap, but it protects my iPad. I use it as a stand when I go out drawing. So yeah, that is quite handy. I don't really like drawing straight down. I like it to be kind of propped up, like I'm drawing on an easel or something. So yeah, that's pretty good. You see, I get sort of sucked into doing edges. They are fun, but sort of try and stay away. Right, his eyebrows. I think they may be a bit wider. Do you try and like look at the face and think of like, what do I see that I would like to exaggerate? He's got, it's usually around the eyebrows. I think the eyebrows carry a lot of the expression. So like if you can kind of capture and exaggerate expression, it kind of does make a compelling picture. So I don't think this looks like this guy yet. I think his mouth is definitely not quite right. Got wider lips. We'll try and pin down the edges of the face. I think it comes in closer. Okay. So normally I would just keep going. I would try and get the drawing better before I do any overlay. But I'm very aware that this is a YouTube video. I don't want it to be like hours and hours long. I don't want to bore you guys. So the next step, not required, optional, entirely optional, is to overlay the photograph. So that lays the photo's new layer. You want to drop transparency right down and position your photo over the top of your existing. Now this is going to be really hard if your drawing is not particularly accurate, because everything will be in the wrong place and you won't be able to get it to match up. So let's have a look. I think this was a good effort on my behalf today. Right, so what have I done wrong? Yeah, not particularly good effort. I'm usually more accurate than this, but you know, it's what it is. So what have I done wrong? I have... his jaw's a bit wide here. I've dropped his shoulder way down. I always do that. I always get the shoulders wrong. So that's usually something I'm aware of when I fix. His nose here just needs to come up a snitch. Again, that's all stuff that I usually fix a bit further along in the process anyway. His eyes are roughly in the right place. I've got his inner... have a look. Kind of got roughly the right shape. I've identified where it is in there roughly. His hairline's pretty good. The shape of his hair is pretty close. So, I mean, it's not perfect, but I think it's close enough. And this is all stuff that if you carry on kind of looking at what you're looking at, that you can probably fix. But if you're kind of way off, if the eyes are completely wrong or the mouth is wrong, then figuring it out early when you're in the blocking stage makes everything so much easier. So let's fix a few things now. Oh, and we're in the blocking stage. You've not finalised anything yet. Don't use the liquefied tool. I know you want to. Don't use cut and paste. Just redraw, guys, redraw. I think there's something about like the process of redrawing stuff on the same layer. It kind of, there's like a bit of a memory there, and that's what happens in charcoal drawings. Like, you don't get charcoal drawings right straight away. You get them wrong, you make mistakes, you build up the lines move as you get more accurate, and the paper holds that memory of those lines within itself. Like, you can never erase stuff completely. Even if you've got very soft charcoal, there's some kind of memory of the marks you made there, and that's what makes that's what makes charcoal drawings have their kind of essence or their soul. So, you know, if your goal is to produce something that looks like a charcoal drawing or has that essence, then yeah, just try and treat it like the medium and you just get more interesting results, I think. So you're probably shouting at me now that I've missed something when I was doing the overlay. Like, there you go there, I think I just spotted it, but but I think that was the kind of main stuff. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's a bit better now. I mean, I've still got his shoulder a little bit low, but I can deal. So when you overlay, it's just, you're constantly making that process of maybe having that dialogue with yourself to say, this is what I've done wrong and this is what I need to fix, and after a while you do realise a pattern. Apologies if you watch my other videos, because I've probably rabbited on about that in those as well. So that's the blocking stage done, I think. So I'm pretty happy where everything is. I've blocked in the rough shapes. I mean, it doesn't really look like him yet. Yeah, a lot of that you realise is in the final details. So now it's just about developing edges and building up the mid-tones a little bit, and kind of, I say building up the mid-tones, I don't even think it's building up the mid-tones with a drawing like that. It's just doing edges. And what I mean by edges is any time that you transition from a dark black or grey, whatever, to a white, that's an edge. So the question is, does it go dark to light very quickly, like on this edge here under his chin? Does it go dark to light very slowly, like the rounded shape of his cheek? And just replicating that in your drawing. Also looking out for edges where you can't really see an edge at all, even though you know one's there. So like maybe around his chin here, you know there's an edge there, but you can't see it. So I think sometimes exaggerating those, losing them, just helps a cool picture. So that's what I'll be doing now. I may go quiet for a bit. I'll try and maybe put on some funky music. So just enjoy if you're drawing along. And I will try and share a link to this guy's page. If you're drawing along on this picture or something else, then I hope it goes well. Quick one, I did mention at the beginning about my spud brushes. I don't really use them. If I want to smudge, I tend to just work in layers, just like I would in charcoal, going over with a bit of colour, going in with an eraser, and that's how I smudge, that's how I knock lines back. So yeah, that's a little suggestion. If you want to smudge, try just doing that instead. I'm also using my pencil very lightly. I'm always just kind of running it or rubbing it across the surface of the screen. That's the way I build up these kind of really smooth washes of colour. Barely pressing. Yeah, try and use these washes of colour instead of smudging. Just building them up. This is why I love this brush. I mean, you can see it more if you turn off the background layer, but it has this really like great rough charcoaly texture, which I think looks fab. Oop. Oh, my screen does this time. I've got to buy a new screen protector, I think. Get these weird lines. Anyway. Don't forget you're not just drawing with your pencil, you're drawing with the razor as well. So if you zoom in close, you'll see the darkest line is almost that line on the edge of the shadow. So when I'm doing these drawings, I really try and exaggerate that because it just gives a really cool effect. And if it means just drawing it first and then going in and lightening the rest of the area, then yeah, that works. Just kind of keep playing around until you get the effect that you want. Don't use smudge brush much. When I do, I love it. Just try and keep it quite subtle. Sometimes when I draw these, they don't actually look like the person I'm drawing. It depends how faithful you want to be, really. Like, if something looks really cool, but it doesn't look like the person you're drawing, I mean, unless it's like someone really famous or a commission, then does it really matter? I don't know. I think it does. One of the frustrating things when you first start drawing is a lot of the decisions that artists make without even thinking, like subconsciously, is like the result of a lot of practice and learned behaviour. So it can be quite frustrating to see an artist like just randomly doing things and them looking amazing. But I think from my experience, I'm definitely not amazing yet. I mean, I'm a work in progress, but I find that when I do these drawings, like I'm not even thinking about some of these decisions, but I've just drawn these drawings so much that I've kind of observed what works, and I'm subconsciously just replicating those, what doesn't work, and yeah, just by myself subconsciously replicating those, and then just because over time I've noticed that that just gives a cool effect. And I think that's what becomes your personal style after a while. I think it's something that evolves. So like, if it's something that evolves through extreme practice, then I think that really debunks this like idea that you need to have a very distinctive style and that you need to find your distinctive style early. Like, I'm pretty sure all the athletes didn't, like, when they first started learning how to run or do gymnastics, they weren't like, I don't even know how to do a handstand, but what's my, you know, what's my unique style as an Olympic athlete, before they even like were close to that stage. No, they didn't. That's something that they developed over time, you know, through a lot of practice. So I always get really frustrated by those videos that say you must have your own personal style, blah blah blah. Like, no, you don't need your personal style. I think a lot of people start off by copying masters and, you know, copying other artists. And I think if you like force yourself to try and develop something unique before you even really know what you like to do, I think it's I think it will do you a disservice. So yeah, if you don't get sucked in by those like people going, I'll help you find a distinct style, just do this course from me and you'll learn your own distinct style. Nah, don't fall for it. Around, I'm constantly looking for like lines and marks that I find like offensive or jarring. I don't know how to describe it, but lines that kind of mess with the flow of the picture, and I'm like, yeah, if I see one of those, I'm like, right, let's tackle that right now. It's a good practice to get into. It's like constantly, you know, don't spend too much time on one particular little area. Constantly, like, you know, if you have spent time drawing one bit, then your eye should be refreshed for the rest of the drawing, so it's time to go in and check for the rest of it. Like all this area here, like I squint and like, yeah, there's stuff going on there, and I think it'd be tempting to get sucked into drawing that, but I think I'm just going to unify it all. You know what, he's reminding me of someone right now and I can't quite place it. Not himself, unfortunately, but who is he reminding me of? I'll figure it out. Sketch studies is always really fun way of trying out different things. So like, you know, I think it's good not to take them too seriously, because the more like random stuff you do, the more likely you are to find a happy accident. They are the best. I think what I'd say is the most thing you want is variety. You want interesting marks. So I think sometimes just keeping our drawing quite small, like doing weird things with your pen, can like, I don't know, can lead to some happy accidents. And also just really look for those lines where the shadows terminate. Oh, actually got that in place. exaggerating those can look so cool. You can tell I like facial hair has been way too long on it. I've just ignored everything else. Everything else is optional. Facial hair is a big tree. It's got a cool shaped nose. I noticed that. This nostril a bit low. Something else low, I don't know. Every time you find yourself over modelling something, and by over modelling I mean like exaggerating the difference between light and dark, just go in and knock it back. Go in, like, come with your razor, rub it over a bit. Oh. Darker, make it lighter. So I'm not happy with this eye. I just haven't drawn it in yet. Problem with developing stuff at different speeds is it just looks really weird. You really want to be developing everything at the same speed. Do what I say, don't do what I do. I suppose with these like beautiful people that have very smooth skin, I think like getting the highlights can help. I'm just mapping where his eye is. I'm a bit like meh about eyes, like I could really just leave them out altogether. As you probably know if you've looked at any of my artwork or watched any of my videos, probably like bored of me going on about it, but yeah, I would happily just not draw them at all. I think the thing with eyes is they can tell you so much about a person, but so if you leave them out, it's like, who is this person? You try and find the eye, like the person looking at it is looking for the eye, and depending on how kind you are, it's like, how many clues am I going to give the person? Like, am I going to make them look really hard for that eye? And so like the harder you make them look, the more important every tiny little mark is, which I think is quite fun. Quite sharp, but yeah, fun. This guy's kind of squinting his eyes, Zane's kind of squinting his eyes. So I'd like to like show that, because there's something about like the way the sun's drenching him. It's quite fun, but Is it gonna spoil the look? One thing you can do is if you quite like where you are at a place, you can just duplicate a layer. So slide left and duplicate it, and then you have like a backup. So like if you want to just try something really wacky, do that, and then, you know, if you try something wacky and it doesn't work out, then you've got a backup. Undo works pretty well, but if you come out of the file, then you can kind of lose that undo. And if you need to, you can still keep checking in on the, you know, that photograph to say, like, especially when you're doing things like eyes, like, is everything still in the right place? You don't want it too much because it can become a crutch, but if it's just something's looking a little bit funky, then why not go ahead? I'm just trying to think of like the form of his head, so it's a bit like subtle here, but his forehead's coming towards you. He's got a bit of a lip under his eyes here. And like it's kind of looking a bit freaky and weird right now. I have faith we'll be able to fix it. Get something about how his hair joins up, maybe. See if we can fix it. With your hair, try to draw the individual hairs and give it as like a mass, and a mass which has form. So like, where are the highlights, where are the shadows on the hair, or is it always the same tone as the face, that kind of thing. Just try not to think of it as like a bunch of hairs. When you start drawing hairs, it always goes wrong. Still looking a little bit strange. I can't figure out why. It's definitely the eyes. It really look like it's sitting in his face properly. I guess this is the joy and the frustration with drawing. Like, you can be so close and it can yet look so weird. And if you fix something, you suddenly fix something and it's like it snaps into place. But figuring out what you need to fix is freaking difficult. And it can be, it's like, you might have all the features in the right place, but you might have like shaded something slightly wrong, and you might have like a weird mark that just kind of throws people's brains off. Like, it can be so many different things. I think it's something about the way I've shaded him. I think it's just not really like convincingly giving me man. It was giving me a man, but it's giving me like a 2D man. I think it's his eyes. I think they're in the face. That's why it's good not to draw them, because then it doesn't matter. If they're wrong, just roll them out. Do it. Doesn't matter. I'm pissed if that was in the right place. Right, so sometimes it helps if you kind of measure up and down. So I'm really struggling with the eye, but assuming his moustache is in the right place, which is a big darn assumption, but I'm getting his neck is lining up with the edge of his moustache, which is lining up with the corner of his eye, which is the top of his eyebrow, and that patch. So moustache going down, corner of the eye, there. Patch. The only annoying thing about doing it that way is you've got to be measuring it off like the right place. If you measure it off the wrong place, and that's in the wrong place, then everything else will come in the wrong place. You have to end up redrawing a bunch of stuff. I did a blocking boot camp with Steve Bauman, which I really recommend it because I found it really helpful. This kind of style of like blocking in the rough proportions of the face and then like developing a drawing from that. I think he just goes into so much detail around it, and it's really good at breaking it down for beginners, which I am not good at, which is why I don't charge anyone for it, because I know I'm not very good at it and I don't have the time. Yeah, that looks better already. And then because his eye was in the wrong place, his eyebrow was in the wrong place, so then the side of his face was in the wrong place. So that needs to be that right there. I'm still drawing really zoomed out. I don't know, it just really helps. I really do. I can see why some artists do like a paintbrush on like a broom handle and stuff, because it does help. Yeah, don't be afraid of making weird little marks. Can be interesting. I love ears, I don't know why. They are a bit hit or miss for me. I often put them in the wrong place, but I do love drawing them. I think it's because I get them wrong so many times. I feel like I've drawn them more than any other picture. I think that's why. Now that's the top tip. Double tap switches between brush and eraser. And yet I don't really do it that way. I don't know why, I just don't really enjoy that gesture. This is like classic Katie. I'm gonna just not draw the eye. I think I will draw it. I think I will get it in eventually, but maybe right at the end when I'm happy with everything else. So many times I dive into the eye too early and it just never works out well for me. It just always looks terrible. And I'm sure it's a failing on my part. And my habit of like leaving it till the very last second is like a massive crutch, but there's actually quite a lot of drawings I've left it to the very last second and then decided, wow, that actually looks so cool as it is, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. But you see, I pivot my pencil around a lot because I like to have like a variety of marks. Sometimes I'm pressing very hard with the tip of my pencil. Sometimes I'm like rubbing it. Sometimes I'm like scribbling it. It looks a bit uncontrolled, but I do have actually quite a lot of control. So before you feel you try and do it yourself and it looks weird. No. And also there's the beauty of undo, so if I do a mark and it's crap, just undo it. It is beginning to look a little bit more like him, I think. I don't know what it is, but I've sort of slowly nudged it in the right direction, I believe. And I've kind of got my lightness. I kind of struggle with how hard to push lightness, but one of the good things about photos, if you don't know what's going on, as long as it's high-res photo, you can kind of zoom in and have a look. I mean, you can do that when you're driving from life as well. You can walk up to the model and stare at them from like a few inches away, but sometimes it weirds them out. Oh, big news. I'm in, talking of staring at people from a few centimetres away, I'm in a British TV show called Portrait Artist of the Year. I don't know if you're from the UK, whether you watch it. I think it's quite hard to get outside of the UK, but I might do a post on it, a video on it later in the year. It's getting shown in November 2024, so and it will be on preview for us in the UK. I think for those of you outside the UK, if you want to watch, unfortunately I think it's not available, although sometimes they do find themselves their way to YouTube at some point. Yeah, that was a fun experience. I can't talk about it, but I can say I think it will be quite fun to watch. I don't know. I don't think I embarrassed myself too much, but let's find out. Do something with the eyeball. God, it looks like a cat's eyeball. I think it's just the way the light's falling. And I think that's right. See, this is the problem with drawing eyes. Just a little smoothness, I think. Now I am going in the smudge brush. Too much smudging just looks rubbish, so it's definitely need to use it very carefully. I think his eye's a bit high, you know. Like so. What you can do if you just can't kind of figure out what's right is just flip it. Sometimes that's all you need to do to figure out exactly what's wrong. So let's take a look. Not having an eye. What about? So those here a little below. This is a frustrating thing, you know, it's literally millimetres difference. It's like that, so freaking hard. So like really weirdly helpful for the tones as well, this technique. Doing some kind of like purse lip. Pretty much whenever I see like a dark blob, I just go in and rub it all out. Just don't need uniform like dark blobs in my drawings. even my shadows have got to work. A lot of the stylization comes like in these last like bits as well, so makes it hard to know when to stop, to be honest. It's kind of scrunching of his eyes again. I think it's the sunlight. Quite like it. A few lashes. Brows, sorry, lashes. They are brows. His eye here is not quite right. I think it comes in more. It's a bit right. A lot of personalities in brows. I think it's worth getting them right. Right, I mean, kind of exaggerating them maybe even sometimes so that you capture some of the personality. Why is it so hard to know what to do? That's good, I think. Shadow. That's the fun thing, he picks one thing and he's got like, oh yeah, now that's what. And he picks that. Cascades. That looks a lot better. I think maybe I've nipped his eyebrow in a bit too much, but it's got fantastic eyebrows. Sometimes what you do is just flick your eyes from left to right really quickly, and then sometimes that helps you pick stuff up. You can bring back your background drawing as well. I think after a certain point I find that almost like it messes stuff up. And unless your drawing isn't working and you really can't figure out why, then I would just say just try and resist the temptation to like bring that back at this stage. No. Kind of cool how it's like that line always disappears there, and it's because it's just the shade of the background is similar to the shade of his jaw, but sometimes replicating that stuff looks super cool. I think it is kind of looking like him more and more. Just kind of playing around now. This is a fun bit. Really like. Just trying to like be quite playful. I can't really figure out his eyes. I think because of the way the light's hitting them, it's kind of like there's a lot going on there. For me, like his eyes aren't really the focus of the drawing, I guess. They're not my favourite bit of it. The drawing. Photograph. Yeah, they're not my favourite bit of the photograph. Like, for me it's like the bit that I like. I like this shape of his nose, and I like his mouth with the moustache. And that's what I'm interested in. So I'm forcing you to be interested in the same areas. Maybe, I don't know. I'm telling you what I want you to look at. Through my drawing. So it's kind of made it to look quite cool. So I've been working away at like kind of modulating the edges a lot and exaggerating them. Still not at the stage where it's like 100% automatic, so I do have to work in it before I'm happy with it. It's like I have to go through that stage of like drawing everything in and letting it go or something, I don't know. I'm really not sure what to do with these eyes, like, really not sure. Let's go in close, see this one in. Just try and draw it in last time to see if I can make it work. I think it's something about his eyes in the photograph, and I don't know what it is. That line there is just really jarring for me. Sometimes I find like the blender's quite good for these like little edges. I quite want to like fiddle with too much. You really need to be sparing there. You can go wrong fast. Just need to always want that variety. So even like something like this, you want like really hard lines, you want some really soft lines. I think the small areas I find the blender is actually quite useful because it allows you to get that like variety of edges. I'm really not sure what I think of this. Sometimes I literally like put it down to Instagram size. I'm just looking at the overall picture and just getting like another impression of light and dark. I think there were certain areas I just had over dark. I was kind of throwing everything off. Pretty close now, I think. Like, I'm sure you can see, like, it really isn't like those fine details where stuff really comes together. I think sometimes when you get really lucky, you might have like a few early marks, and you don't need to have to like push it this much to get it right, but it just kind of depends how lucky you are at the beginning. Sometimes even if you are lucky at the beginning, like you still like find you have to adjust quite a lot. Yeah, so it's a weird one. He addresses I here. I think I'm okay with that. Probably don't know. Half the time I'll like just post it and go, oh, sod it, just post it. Sometimes I'll just come in and redo it later on. I just went a little bit dark on his moustache. It's actually in the light, so it's actually quite bright. I think I've just overdone that and it's kind of like throwing a lot of other things off, but it definitely often takes a long time for me to realise something is not working, what that something is, if it's not like straight up proportional errors. Yeah, it can be really hard. I think that eye's in the eyes. I'm just having lots of marks as the way forward, like just put loads of marks down, let the person looking at it decide which one is the right one. That can also be a good tactic. And it kind of can feel a bit cheaty, but I don't think it is. I think it gives a cool effect. Yeah, it's still not right, but I think it's pretty okay for a first sit-in. Maybe I'll go back, maybe I won't. it's just like a little bit still I need. Around those eyes, they're just not right. I will freely admit that eyes are not my forte. Really.
So this is the end of my drawing of Zane. I hope you found this video useful. Well done if you managed to stick through to the end. Hopefully you were drawing along with me so you didn't just have to watch me and listen to me talking. I really hope you found the process useful. Share your drawings with me if you have followed along and you have drawn your own drawing. I'm on Instagram at KTMaveArt, and leave a comment, feedback, whatever, you know, share with me your thoughts, and then I'll take that forward when I do more videos. Hope you have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.